What's going on, guys? This is Matt with Payne's Custom Carpentry, recording a video of how I do my L-shaped desk for y'all, and here we go. So this one is just the top. The customer just wanted the top. He already had the base, and this one's made out of all yellow pine. So you can find this at Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, wherever, local lumber yard. Just going to take you through the process of milling it, gluing it up. So if you have any questions, just let me know. And here you can see just how long it took with this wind planer to mill all this lumber just by looking at the sun behind me.
2,000 years later.
So you'll see while I'm working here, I don't have the biggest and baddest tools or the biggest and baddest shop, but I do think for the majority of you guys out there that are working, you kind of started like me. You don't have the dominoes, so you can see in this video I'm using a Ryobi miter saw, and I want to say that's right around $270 at Home Depot. Right there I'm using my wind planer. I think that's the 12.5 inch. You can get it now for 280 bucks. Even right here you could see I'm using the DeWalt biscuit joiner, where a lot of professionals will have the Festool domino, but for me, right here you can actually see my wife scared the mess out of me. Thanks for that. But anyway, the wind planer's probably $260, $270. A lot of this stuff you can get on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Craigslist, all that kind of stuff. Pipe clamps, again, just a cheap and easy way to do good solid glue ups. And you can use you can see I cheaped out and used the glue spreader that God gave me on this one. But the main key with these large glue ups is making sure all your biscuits are in line. To me, the biscuits aren't as much for strengthening as much as they are for just alignment. And the main part is you want to get even clamping pressure. And I put cawls at the end. You just want to do this, that way when you do tighten those pipe clamps, if anything might cup or bow or start to twist on you, these cawls and clamps at the end will keep everything in line while it's tightening up. So if you like these little pro tips, feel free to like and subscribe, comment any questions you might have or any criticism you have as well. Be greatly appreciated. And there will be links to most of the tools I use. And here you can see I do have a DeWalt drill. I just bought that recently. And like I said, guys, I started out with the Porter cable drill and a Ryobi miter saw and a Ryobi impact drill. So use what you can. Don't go out of your way to spend a whole lot of money. And in the end, you'll see just how nice you can get these pine boards. So, little tip that I've learned over the past couple of years is the most important part with this biscuit joiner is you got to get everything in line. The last thing you want to do is get those boards on the clamps and then pour all that glue on there, get it all spread, and then it doesn't line up. That is the absolute most heartbreaking part. I have to get all that wet glue off, start all over, recut the boards, all that good stuff. So just a little tip on that. Take your time with getting everything lined up and cut, and then do a little dry fit. It only takes a few minutes and it ensures everything's in line and accurate. Now look at this fit and finish. Who needs a domino when you got that beautiful DeWalt biscuit joiner? Now, all jokes aside, I do think there's a time and place for dominoes. I do think they add a lot of structural integrity, and it is a lot easier when you're doing legs, bases, all that kind of stuff. But for the price you're paying for that domino, this biscuit joiner, I want to say was like 150 bucks. So if you're on a budget, if you're just now starting out, stick with that biscuit joiner. There's a lot of different brands, but I like the DeWalt. And like I said earlier, I'm always going to use these cawls and clamps just to keep everything in line Make sure nothing warps or cups overnight. Right here, all I'm doing is cutting down the shorter section, and you don't want to cut it to final length, but you do want to kind of get it a couple inches in the area or close to it. That way when you glue up the long end and the short end, you don't have to do a whole lot more cutting. It's just easier in the end. All I'm doing right here is cutting it down close to final length and width, just so when we do that glue up, we're pretty close. I love using this Makita 36 volt track saw. So the guide rails here usually come in 55-inch length. You can get them in, I want to say 30 or 36, but I chose to get the 255s. And a little tip here is if you get a steel straight edge, you can use that to make sure you have a perfectly square and level connection, because if you don't use that, they will tend to walk on you when you're screwing them together. So that's just a good little tip. Go get you a straight edge if you are going to look at these Makitas. And I know y'all really want to sit here and watch me sand this desk for a while, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Just give you a little tip right here. Start with 80. I usually go from 80, 120, 180, then 220 on my desks and tabletops. But you see these pencil scribbles on here. All that's for is to tell me essentially where I've sanded and where I haven't. So you know when you're sanding it, when all the pencil markings are gone, that you've hit that spot. And then once you hit that spot, you can go to the next grit. 120, 180, whatever you want to do, and you can continue to use the pencil mark. You don't have to. It's just something I like to do because it gives me a visual on where I'm at. Alright, this might be the most important thing. If you haven't got anything from me today, remember this. If you're going to record yourself, make sure you don't do it in slow-mo, because this is the only router shot I got after about 10-15 minutes of actually doing router work, because I couldn't use any because it was all filmed in slow motion. Now, if you've ever worked with pine, done any kind of staining, you'll know it gets a little blotchy. If you let it sit too long in certain spots, it'll take different colors depending on the wood, depending on the species, because it's all different. You can just get it from those lumber yards. Might be a little wetter, might be a little drier. Anyways, I've used this Minwax stain conditioner for a few years now, and it is awesome. So basically what it does is it's made for pine. It's basically it takes out all the blotchiness and it makes it a lot more uniform and a lot better stain. So I'll put this in my description. Link will be in it. So if you're going to work with pine, please go get some of this stain conditioner. Obviously you don't need this for walnut, maple, because usually you're not going to be staining it, and it's definitely a harder wood. But you will see in the end just how beautiful this pine can be, but you do want to take some precautions. After playing with some different sample colors, the customer decided on this ebony stain from Varathane. Whenever you're going to stain pine, the longer you leave the stain on there, the darker it'll get. So if you don't want it too dark, my recommendation is to do a light coat, wipe it off, see how it looks. If you want it darker, you can always add more coats, but you can never really take it off. So just remember that if you're going to stain pine or any kind of wood in that matter. I finished this top with 5 coats of oil-based polyurethane from Minwax. Super easy to apply. It's very durable, so it's easy for me to do. I can wipe it on, leave it overnight, and next morning it's ready for me to come in, give it a light sand with 220, wipe it down, and put another coat on. So in a minute you'll be able to see a few pictures just how beautiful pine can be. Some of the pros of using pine are, number one, the price. Number two, the availability. You're going to be able to get it at every hardwood store or your local Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, etc. The cons is it is sometimes a little bit harder to work with. Sometimes it's all wappy jawed or wet, but it's a little more work, but it still is beautiful. So if you like this video, like and subscribe and comment what you'd like to see next time. Thank y'all.